Welcome once again to another exciting and informative edition of ZYNC TV's New York Links. I am Catchcha Fyah, and here's what's coming up on today's show.
ZYNC TV, I'm McKay.
And she's coming up with us. Keep it locked. It's Catchcha Fyah.
ZYNC TV's New York Links.
Welcome back to ZYNC TV. In continuing with our recognition of Women's History Month and celebrating the contributions our women have made to our society, we are here today with a lady who has made her mark in radio history, the incomparable Pat McKay. Born of Jamaican parents, Pat McKay was raised in New York City, USA, and Kingston, Jamaica. Her unwavering love of reggae music grew naturally out of Caribbean music played at home and from time spent living in Jamaica. After college radio, she hosted the first ever all-reggae show on a major New York City station. I'm here with Miss Pat McKay, a history maker herself. How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
Welcome to ZYNC TV. I'm fine. Thanks for asking.
Good. But it's not my first time on ZYNC TV, so I'm glad to be back again.
Okay. Well, welcome back.
Yes, thank you.
So I understand that you've been in broadcasting for a very long time, and I heard you mention before 1982. What does that signify in your life? In broadcasting?
College radio, WOBC in Oberlin College in 1982. That's how I started. Friends just insisted because I had a record collection and they wanted to hear reggae on the radio, and our dorms were kind of far apart. They encouraged me, insisted that I do it. So I did that, and I also was the club DJ at the campus nightclub. So yeah, that's basically how I got on the air for the first time.
So when you were in college, you didn't start out thinking, oh, I'm going to do radio and it's going to be reggae. Is that how it started now?
I wanted to write news. I was a political science major, and I saw that different news organizations presented news items in different ways, and it could be just a word or two or a tone that would give a news story different meaning. So, and I really did admire some of the newscasters at that time. So I wanted to write the words that they would deliver to America. That was that was what I wanted to do. So it's been an interesting journey. I'm still, of course, very interested in politics, and I follow it. And I think, living history that the few make decisions that affect so many is fascinating to me. So yeah, I'm still into it, but you know what my love is and where my heart is. It's always been there, but you're enjoying something so much, you don't really always see it as something that would become a profession. You just sort of hurtle towards it.
So you loved it and you just continued.
Yes.
As far as, Pat has you've worked internationally, and in New York, you guys might have heard of KISS FM and WBLS. She's also worked with those stations. Right. And we're celebrating Women's History Month. And I wanted to ask you, in an arena where it's mostly men, how did it ever affect you, or have you ever noticed it? How did you conquer that?
You notice it. I think I was fortunate enough to come into radio at an angle that allowed me to see how the men in the industry view the women in the industry. Ken Williams gave me my first job, and he was the only person that promoted live reggae. So every week there'd be a different live reggae act. And it was a multifaceted task I had with him, because I was his administrative assistant in the nightclub, because he was also a programming director at a radio station that he never put me on the air at, but I just had to get that in. But because he was a PD and a nightclub owner, I helped with the operations in the nightclub in a minor way. But we had to get work permits for artists, but my little official workspace was right next to the dressing room. So it allowed me to hear, and sometimes even be part of, exchanges that these mostly male musicians would have about women. So it was interesting, and I guess I had the advantage of knowing how I didn't want to be talked about and how I never wanted to be referred to. So I determined at a pretty early point, because I was in my late teens when I started working with Ken, I don't want to be the one they talk about like that. So it was more, I guess it started, or my professional position or approach started by saying what I don't want to be.
So you had to figure out your professional identity as far as being the woman in that arena.
Yes, and I guess depending on your audience, depending on your responsibilities, that changes, but not at the core. You kind of always know, okay, this is what I will do and this is what I won't do. And I think it did help to establish those things, or begin to establish those things pretty early, because every day you still have to make those choices. But I think it helped to know going in, or at least at an early point going in, what I didn't want to do.
In 1992, she became the first person of Caribbean descent to program a 24/7 music format in the U.S. First for Music Choice and currently for SiriusXM satellite radio, specifically The Joint, and also Praise, the gospel station. Right now you're working on SiriusXM satellite radio, and you're promoting gospel now. So how is that going for you?
It's interesting you say the word promote, because that is part of it, but it's more programming, which is determining what songs go into rotation, what our audience will hear. So it's made very easy by a very responsive audience. Actually, gospel and reggae both have very responsive audiences, because it's music that people take personally. It's like that choice that men make, boxers or briefs. So it's very personal. So you may like a particular type of gospel, and you may dislike another type of gospel just as much, and the same with reggae. So it's a matter of knowing your audience and being responsive to them as well, and then hopefully you make as many people happy as possible.
Miss McKay had a 14-year professional relationship with Inner City Broadcasting Corporation, where she hosted the Reggae House Party for 4 years, the first ever all-reggae show on General Market Radio presented on WBLS. At WLIB, she served briefly as music director and as host and producer for many years until their recent acquisition, having lent her voice power internationally on film, television, and on print, as well as on WRTN, WNYE, IRE FM, WQXR, and WRKS. She looks forward to current and future opportunities to improve visibility for Caribbean music and culture and contribute progressively to the projection and inclusion of this rich art form in all media. So is there anything in particular as far as advice that you can give any young woman out there who probably see themselves in Pat McKay's shoes later on in journalism, in broadcast, on radio, or on television? What can you tell them to encourage them to keep going?
Your options are what you think they are. You only have to do those things that you see as options to getting ahead. If it's not an option, then don't consider it. If it's something that's outside of what you know to be right and wrong, then that's not something that you should follow or even be tempted by. If you know what you will do and what you won't do for your career, as early as possible, when you've decided, okay, this is something that I really want to do, then that's probably the most helpful thing you could do to yourself, is care about yourself enough to say, okay, I will do this. It's part of my job. Or I won't do this. It's not part of my job. And that's not going to help me or contribute to my growth and development or what it is I'm trying to grow and develop. So I won't do that. So it's important to know those things.
Right, that's very well said. We want to thank Pat McKay for joining us, and good luck on SiriusXM.
And good luck to you, Catchcha. You're with a good crew. We love ZYNC TV. Thank you, ZYNC TV.